Today, Baba is giving us some cautions because it is important that we fill ourselves with the knowledge and yoga power from Baba. But it is also important that we take care, a little attention, just a little attention on some things that we do, and we shouldn't be indulging in those actions. So, Baba today says, do not gossip. Yes, so why do not gossip? Because you see, when we are talking about someone else, then it may be true, it may be false. It is not just that, when you are saying something about somebody or hearing something about somebody and it is false, then it is gossip. But even if it is true, then what good are you doing discussing it? So if you discuss it, spread it, then also whatever they are doing. But what happens is, when you discuss, you gossip, you make the atmosphere full of negativity. And Baba says the feelings, the intentions, they are affected, they become negative because of this act of gossip. So let's say, so you see, Baba says that my attitude and my perception of the other will help them uplift themselves. Yes, so Baba says, be soul conscious and perceive everyone as a soul. And what happens when you see everyone as a soul? You help them. Your perception of another one as a soul is kind of a spiritual support you're giving them to be in their power. For example, if I look at somebody, if I have the attitude that this is a pure soul in front of me, then my perception will enable them to align with their purity. So this is the law that Baba has told us. And you see, in science also, people are these days talking about the observer effect. So in science, they say that the observer affects the movement of particles around them. So how the atmosphere behaves in the presence of the observer varies from one to another. So this is what Baba has been telling us about for so long, that your drishti, so in Hindi we say drishti se srishti, which means that your perception can change the world. So how you see someone helps them become that. Yes, so we have seen many examples of the opposite of this working true, right? For example, if you perceive somebody as useless, they pretty much become useless after some time, because your perception, your attitude towards towards the other one is definitely coloring their perception of themselves. So, and if you introspect a little, you will figure out that the way you perceive yourself is nothing but a summation of how other people have perceived you. So if you, and I think, perception is the most important thing, because I have seen that, so I had a friend, and she used to fail in every class. So, in some subject she would fail. But her father, he always spoke to her that, you are the dearest, you're the sweetest, you're the most successful. And although she failed, she did not have this feeling that I'm a failure. And she had the confidence that I'm destined to be successful. and later she did well in life. And there was another friend, and she used to do well, but she was always criticized that you're not doing enough, you can do better, but you're lazy or you're neglecting your studies. And then later she lost her confidence and she did not do too much in life. So how other people perceive us definitely has a very big impact on us. And similarly, the opposite is also true. So if you perceive the other one as capable, powerful, pure, peaceful, loveful, then they become that. And Baba says, when you gossip about somebody or you hear about somebody, somebody else is gossiping and you're just hearing it, then what happens is you are letting that information, whether true or false, is inconsequential, but that information, you are allowing that information to change your perception of the other. And that information, if you are sharing, it is changing the perception of the one in front of you. And it is very interesting that you cannot hear something and not let it change your perception. If you have heard something, it definitely affects your intellect, it affects your perception. And about hearing, it is said that the elephant is a huge animal, but when an ant enters its ear, then the elephant goes crazy. So the ear is very important. So any little piece of information in the form of gossip, it spoils your thoughts, perception, attitude towards others. And that is why Baba says, do not gossip. And I will tell you one thing, there is a difference between reporting and gossiping. Okay, so this you have to understand. When you report, you are reporting to a person who is in authority about the actions of the one you are reporting about. Okay, so let's say when the child misbehaves in school, then the teacher will inform the parent. Why? Because the parent have to do something about it. They can do something about it. But if that information is shared with other students or fellow teachers, or maybe fellow teachers also is fine if that teacher is also teaching the child and they are in a position to help the child. So it is very important that when you see something, you only tell the person who is in a position to help you, support that one who is doing something wrong. And that person should be in that position of authority and also have the intention. Sometimes, somebody is in a position of authority, but they don't have the intention to support, they have the intention to sabotage. So then also you don't need to share that information with that person. But if that information, if that person is in a position of authority, they can help the other person and they are willing to, they have the intention, then you sharing it with them is called reporting, which is very important. For example, if you see some Baba's child doing something which is not not in accordance with Baba's teachings, then who do you go and tell? The teacher. So the teacher who is teaching them every day, you go and tell them, because that teacher will devise ways to let this child know that how to correct, what to correct. So that is called reporting. But telling somebody who has got nothing to do with that situation, or that person is not in a position of authority or they can't help it, then that is called gossiping. Another thing I will tell you which qualifies as gossiping. So if you're talking about deep sanskars that can't be helped, yes, even if somebody is in a position of authority, they can't they can't help the deep sanskars. For example, you know, let's say somebody is somebody is having like somebody is very angry. So anger is a deep sanskar. So if you talk about that deep sanskar and just discuss it, then pointing out that you're angry or pointing out that you have this habit is not going to help. So discussing these deep habits which come from 63 births of conditioning, this is not going to be helpful to anybody. So, or some things like which you can't help. For example, talking about somebody's appearances, or their hair or their height or skin color or their caste or religion, or these things. These things are not by choice. It is what it is. So then discussing these things is definitely gossiping. So that also we must refrain from, because it just spoils the atmosphere. When you discuss people, then you are spoiling the atmosphere. So this thing Baba tells about. And then you see, Baba is also underlining the importance of hearing. So, Baba is also cautioning against hearing these stuff. So let's say you are not talking about it, but somebody else is saying all this to you. So then you have to discourage that person. And the interesting thing is, if you keep discouraging people, you will have no friends left because everybody is bonding on gossip. So, you are bonding with each other by talking about a third person. That's what's going on. So, when you discourage gossip, there is a chance that you will lose many people who you called as friends. So, and then, there will be a vacuum which you will feel. But that is not because you lost friends, that's because you lost those who were not your friends, but you were just living in the illusion that they are friends. Because there's a law that somebody who discusses somebody behind their back with you, they will discuss you behind your back with somebody else. So that's why they are anyways not friends. So don't try to keep up that illusion and come feel that grief that you lost your friend. So do not encourage gossip. And I remember there was this one friend of mine, and I once told her that if you talk about that other friend, I will not talk to you. So then she stopped talking to me. And then I later realized that it was for good only, because she was talking about her to me and me to her. So that's fine. But then when you are on the spiritual path, you have to learn to deal with vacuum. So that this is a very important thing, because just to fill your time or fill your thoughts, we embrace many things which are not good for the soul. So you should be able to deal with loneliness. And the best way to deal with loneliness is understand that it's not loneliness, it is actually solitude, which is an opportunity for you to do your inner work, or make the spiritual effort which you are destined to make, or which you are here to make. So don't see empty spaces as lonely. See it as solitude, as an opportunity to do your spiritual work, inner work, do some reading, do some listening to classes. So look at it like that. So don't listen to gossip. Don't speak about anybody. Don't discuss people with other people. True or false doesn't matter. And then Baba is also talking about the importance of the atmosphere. So do you know that the atmosphere, so the word atmosphere is very interesting, because atmosphere means the sphere of the Atma. Atma ka sphere. So if you see, it's like you, the soul, are here, and a circle around you is your atmosphere. So whatever is your state, so is your atmosphere. So when you are being soul conscious, when you are remembering Baba, then the atmosphere is getting charged. And when you are thinking about people, discussing people, then that atmosphere has a low vibration. And the atmosphere is like, something you create and then something you are also sustained by. So the atmosphere is created by you. It is a reflection of your spiritual stage. But then, when you create an atmosphere through your spiritual effort, that atmosphere also helps you get back to your centering, or your spiritual elevated stage when you're struggling with getting back to it. For example, it is recommended that every day you sit and meditate at the same place in Amrit Vela. So when it is the morning time of meditation, it is recommended that you sit and meditate at the same place. So then what happens is, by meditating there every day, you create an atmosphere. And then when you sit there, that atmosphere helps you to connect easily. So atmosphere is something you create and then you are sustained by it. So it is very important that you take care that in the atmosphere, powerful spiritual atmosphere that you're creating, you do not make the mistake of infusing the vibrations of gossip, and that spoils somebody's perception of the other, it spoils somebody's heart, and then it also damages the atmosphere. So do not gossip, do not discuss people with other people. So if there is a reporting that you have to do to the concerned authority, just do that. Otherwise, everything qualifies as gossip, and don't do that. Then Baba today is saying that, many times children, when Baba says, if you gossip, then this will happen, or, this, you will cause yourself a loss. Then many children think that Baba is cursing them. Yes, but suppose, when you're waking up your child and you say, if you don't get up on time, you will miss school. And the child gets up and says that, you are always talking negative, that I will miss school, and why can't you just be positive? So, these days positivity has also received many wrong connotations. So sometimes, when you are just trying to caution somebody that if you do this, this will happen, then they say you are cursing them. That is, you are just saying something, you're wishing something bad on them. But Baba says there's a difference between cautioning and cursing. So if you don't tell somebody that if you do this, this is going to happen, or it is going to end up like this, then that is not cursing, that is cautioning. So Baba says, I'm not telling you that this should happen to you. I don't want it to happen to you. So I'm just cautioning you. I'm telling you the laws so that you can save yourself from that consequence. Yes. So this is also something, because these days positivity means that you don't correct, you don't caution, you don't do anything, you just keep saying, good, 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 good. No, that's not positivity. If a person doesn't understand the laws and works against the laws, then they are cursing themselves. And cautioning them against cursing themselves is not cursing. So, if somebody doesn't understand the laws of spirituality and they are doing something, or, don't understand the laws of physics and they are doing something against that. So let's say there's a pothole on the road and you tell somebody, walk carefully or you will fall. So that means you are just telling them that walk carefully or you will fall. And that person, if they don't heed your warning, then they will fall. So Baba says that you have to understand the difference between cautioning and cursing. I remember there was this one sister, and she used to come for the course. It happened to me in all these years. She was the only one with which I had this experience, and this was a very interesting insight. So she used to come for the course, and then you just keep sharing the theory with her. It was okay, but every time you point out that, just change this a little. Let's say she came late, and then you say, just try to be punctual, or at least drop a message. Then she would overthink that so much that the next day she would just keep explaining that. And this happened so much that I later realized that I'm not doing her any good by explaining to her spirituality, because she picks only that one point that, I did this wrong. And then she keeps brooding over it, and she's becoming a mess. And then I made an excuse and I stopped her course, because if a person doesn't if a person doesn't understand that, you have the power to change something, and that's why you're being told that you pay attention to this. And if you keep just brooding on what you are asked to change, and you keep telling that, maybe this person is telling me I'm this kind of a person or that kind of a person, then, if you don't take corrections and teachings properly, then it becomes very difficult. And then I realized I'm doing more damage to her than healing. So then I just took a break, and then I told her, maybe, we will meet at a different time, but you're not ready right now. And or maybe, I'm not ready because I have other things to attend to. So that way I just suspended that course. So this is why, it is very important that you take everything in the right spirit. So this is one thing. And then Baba today says that don't think about others. Okay? Because, when you're thinking about your others, you are not thinking, you are missing out on what you really should be paying attention to. Yes, so Baba says, when you make mistakes, you fail. And why do you make mistakes? Because you are thinking about others and not thinking about your own thoughts, your own words, your own actions. And you can only think about either of the two. So you can either think about what you are doing, you can discern your choices and reflect on your thoughts, your words, your acts, or you can think about the other. So in Hindi, there are two words, par chintan, which means par means the other. So thinking about the others is par chintan, and then the opposite is swa chintan, thinking about yourself. So Baba says, when you are doing par chintan, you're definitely not doing swa chintan. And when you don't see yourself, when you don't look at yourself, then you will make mistakes. So this is why don't think about others. Even if you think about somebody day in and day out, you cannot change their fortune. Do you understand that? Yes, mothers, do you understand that? All the mothers are only thinking about their children. Yes, all day and all night, they are only thinking about their children. And then what happens? Will your thinking about the child help the child? No. And whenever you are overthinking, whenever you are thinking more than necessary, it is negative thinking. So it is fear-based thinking, worry-based thinking. So all of that thought is not doing good to the child, and it is not helping the child, obviously, and it is making it worse. But Baba says, don't think about others, think about yourself. Always see, what am I thinking, what am I speaking, what am I doing, how can I make that better? And when you do that, then maybe you will be helping those who are around you. By thinking about them, you will not be able to help them. This is very important because we don't get it. So, we don't get it. And I remember, there was this one brother, he shared with me that his father is diabetic. And his father would keep eating sweets, and then he would not take his medicines, ignore that. And this child, this son of his, this brother, he kept thinking about his father. He was after him all the time that, take medicines, don't eat this, don't eat that. Now the father died eventually because he was anyways not taking care of his health, and the son became an anxiety patient. So you see, the law is, if you overthink about somebody, you cannot change their fortune. But if you overthink about somebody, you will end up spoiling your own fortune. So he was, so the father did what he had to do, and he couldn't be stopped, and he created his own destiny. But the son, because he did not focus on what he is thinking, the quality of his thoughts, and how he can make his life better, and he was constantly consumed by this thought about the father, he became very anxious, and so anxious that he started having panic attacks later. And so you see, this is what attachment does to you. So beware of attachment. Attachment makes you think about others. So Baba says, perform your role, play your role, do whatever you have to do for the other, but don't think about them. Do you understand that? Cook, clean, send them to school, give them every support, but don't think about anybody. So this is also one very important thing that Baba says. And then today Baba is underlining the practice of practice of being bodiless. Okay, so Baba says you have to practice to be bodiless. Now you see, this word bodiless is very interesting because it is defined negatively. So it is bodiless. But what does it mean? So it means you are soul conscious. And what is soul consciousness? So when you forget the body, so when you try to, and how do you start forgetting the body? By bringing into your awareness this truth that everything that you are seeing with the two eyes is not going to be there for very long. So Baba has given us the knowledge that destruction is just ahead, and you can see the indicators very well, very clearly. So look at the amount of preparation there is for civil war or natural calamities or atomic nuclear war, and look at how many wars are going on right now. And Baba says that the time of destruction is very near. So everything that you are attached to right now, that you call I and mine, is going to perish. So just remove your heart from all of that. So just, withdraw your heart and then take it to the one who is eternal. I am eternal. I am the soul. And I'm going to continue forever. So just let me sit in the awareness of me, not of what I have and what I do, which is temporary. And when you sit in the awareness of yourself, then what is the experience of that? So first is your form. What do you look like? You look like a star of light. And then what do you feel like? So when you are bodiless, you feel peaceful, because all the peacelessness is because you're thinking about the matters of the perishable, ever-changing world. So when you're not thinking about them, then you are in your original quality of peace. So, just like, sugar is sweet. If you mix it with something bitter, it starts tasting bitter. You mix it with something sour, it will start tasting sour. But you remove it from the bitter element, the sour element, the sugar essentially is sweet. So Baba says, similarly, you are a peaceful soul. And you can come back to your essence of peace as soon as you stop thinking about the body and the matters of the physical world. So when you are sitting in bodilessness, that means that you are sitting in the awareness that you are a sparkling star of light full of peace, and your experience is of beauty and peace at that time. And then another thing about bodilessness is, as soon as you switch into your essence of peace and essence of being a point of light, you start feeling Baba's presence. Yes, because just like, when there is no sound, there is stillness, there is quiet. Similarly, when there is no body consciousness, then the soul is naturally tuned to feel Baba's presence. Yes, just like, you remove the roof over you, you can receive the sunlight. It's the roof that's stopping it. So that roof is body consciousness. And that is what is not making you receive the light from Baba. So as soon as you switch into your bodiless state, you start receiving the light from Baba. You start feeling Baba's love, Baba's purification, Baba filling you with powers. And Baba says the more you practice this, so being bodiless means three things. First is you are just a star. You don't have attachment to the body. Second is your sanskar of peace is emerged. And then third is you feel that you are connected to Baba and Baba is recharging you. So that is the state of bodilessness. And in that state of bodilessness, if you practice this often, then Baba says your sense organs will calm down. Yes, because you see, so the sense organs, why do they get very agitated? Because whenever you are in an atmosphere or seeing or hearing something which is tickling your senses, so the process is you are hearing it, seeing it. Who is seeing it? Who is hearing that trigger? The soul. And then the soul's sanskar of a vice gets triggered. Okay, so let's say you are seeing something lustful. Then you have the sanskar of lust, and when you see that sanskar gets activated. And then your senses start feeling what your sanskar is making it feel. Okay, so that is the process. So when you practice bodilessness very often, what happens is whenever you see something, hear something, you are able to stay detached from the influence of what you see, what you hear, or what the atmosphere and the vibration is. And then that sanskar in you, which is there, it doesn't get activated. It is still there, but it doesn't get activated. And then, because it doesn't get activated, your body doesn't respond to that sanskar. And slowly, gradually, the law says if you don't use it, you lose it. So those sanskars which don't get activated will die out after some time. So this is why Baba says if you practice being bodiless, your sense organs will calm down. And then, you will not have your eyes will not wander, your ears will not pull you, your body will not have too much chemical reaction all the time. So this is what Baba is talking about. And then Baba says, also know, you will be able to see everyone as a brother soul very easily. You will not be influenced by their gender or looks or appearances or relationship that you have with them, which draw you into attachment and desires and everything. So this practice of bodilessness is very important, and there is no substitute for practice. So what you have to practice, you have to pay attention to. So pay attention to not gossiping, yes, not spoiling the atmosphere, not thinking about others. As soon as you catch yourself doing that, just change it. Okay, you may start doing it by habit, but as soon as you notice that you're doing it, change it. Second thing is practice that which you have to take up voluntarily. So sit and practice this practice of being bodiless. Okay, Om Shanti. Anybody wants to share anything, please do.
Om Shanti Vijay.
Om Shanti.
Uh-huh. What I understand from Baba's Murli is that we are child of Baba and we already are pure souls originally. But now because we are body conscious and we are so much involved and engaged in our surroundings that we forget that we are soul. And that's why whatever is our attitude, our thoughts also run according to them, and our sanskars also run according to them.
Correct.
So, whatever theory we listen and study daily, it helps definitely, but bodilessness practice is very important. Without
Yes.
that, we cannot sustain that soul
Correct.
consciousness.
Correct. Without practice, everything, you will fail when it comes to doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Om Shanti.
And Baba Didi says that beware of all these which is going around us in body consciousness. Initially, we feel very pressurized, and what Baba is, why Baba has come to snatch all these things from us. It was very painful at that
Yes.
time. And now I am understanding that it's very natural.
Yes. Yes.
And this is the truth.
Yes. Yes, because now your perception is set right, so then you can see that this is not snatching, this is freedom. So
Yes.
okay. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.